amazing group of young students from Oregon high schools, and they have just finished a hour-long forum upstairs. And we'll let them introduce themselves once the governor gets here. But you might be wondering about these people, right? Who are these people? Well, these represent some of your most amazing policy leaders in the state, as well as folks that spend all of their time getting their Fitbit points in, walking the aisles of the Capitol. Is that true? Yep. Yeah, I know my Fitbit just went up the month of February. It was really, really a good thing. So these folks are really engaged with our legislators and really helping to think about how we continue to improve services for our students. So Janelle Ives is my partner in crime here. She is from the Oregon Department of Education, and you want to introduce yourself and say a little bit about what you do?
Hi, I'm Janelle Ives, and I work on the high school success team, but I've also been the accelerated and personalized learning specialist, and I manage the Regional Promise grant, and most of these students are from schools within the Regional Promise district. This year, this biennium, we have 9 regions who will be promoting a college and career going culture, having access to college-level opportunities in their high schools, and also trying to bridge college and high school culture by having common professional learning communities and really focusing on improving access. So these are great students. We just had the pleasure to listen to them for the past hour, talking about some of their highlights and some of the struggles and challenges of accelerated learning in Oregon.
And I forgot to say what I do. My name is Hilda Rosselli, and I was a classroom teacher and then a professor, training those teachers that you were talking about. That was an important point they brought up today. And then changed to really focus on how we could work on systems that span our pre-K through college and career. And so now I work in the Chief Education Office with Lindsay Capps, who is our Chief Education Officer. So maybe what we could do is just do a quick introductions of those who are here in the audience, since we are still waiting just a couple minutes. Ben?
Sure. Hello, welcome. I'm Ben Cannon. I'm the Executive Director for a state agency called the Higher Education Coordinating Commission, and we work with all of our 2-year and 4-year public and private institutions in Oregon for higher education, try to create better policies and a better system, and hopefully one that all or many of you will participate in, first as high school students and then eventually as college.
Good morning, welcome. I'm Kathy Kemper-Pell. I'm president of Rome Community College in Southern Oregon. We serve Josephine and Jackson counties. And I serve on the Student Success and Accelerated Learning statewide task force.
Good morning, I'm Dave McDonald. I'm from Western Oregon University, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Strategic Initiatives. And I, too, received dual credit way back before any of you were born.
Hi, I'm Steve Shack. I'm Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at Western Oregon University, and on the Sustainable Systems Accelerated Learning Work Group that's here today, and also at Western involved in one aspect of accelerated learning called Willamette Promise.
I'm Ozzie Rose, excuse me, and I'm a lobbyist for some education groups. I have been lobbying for education in this state for 44 years, and I'm very interested in this topic. Hope we get it done before I am done.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Parasa Chanrami. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Manager for Stanford Children, and I just recently joined this Sustainable Systems for Accelerated Learning Work Group.
I'm Sammy Hokeless. I advise Oregon Student Life.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ricardo Lujan. I'm the Legislative Director for the Oregon Student Association. We've been around since 1975 now, and making sure that we work both in advocacy and in policy to make higher education more affordable and accessible for everyone.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Rob Saxon. I'm Superintendent of the Northwest Regional Education Service District. We sponsor a promise model called the Northwest Promise on the sustainable systems, and before I was in this job, I was in his job.
And I'm Colt Gill. I get to work with Janelle at ODE, and we work with schools and early learning systems, so we help support students from early learning
University, but I see some familiar faces in the room from OSB, so I'm excited to see you guys.
I'm Lindsay Capps. I'm the Chief Education Officer. I'm the co-convener of this work group along with Ben Cannon and Cole Gill. The Chief Education Office is charged with bringing the sectors of education together to provide each of you and all students a seamless transition from higher ed. And so our work is really working between early learning, K-12, K-12, and higher education. So this is one of the key issues that we've identified as a priority to focus on. And so we're really excited to hear your perspective today and help guide our conversation. Thank you all for being here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Crane. I work at the Higher Ed Coordinating Commission with Ben. I'm the director for community college and workforce development. So a lot of my time is spent with Kathy and the presidents of the other 16 community colleges.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Rivera. I'm a researcher at a nonprofit, Northwest, and I decided to do research on accelerated learning, including working with Janelle on the external evaluation of regional concepts. So I've seen a lot of great results from the program. Happy to continue studying.
I'm Jeff Whalen. I'm just a parent. I'm one of the students up there, and I'm just here to listen to what everybody has to say.
Governor Brown.
Sorry, we're running a little late.
No worries. We're just finishing out some introductions here, and we have a seat for you right here.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
And we were right here.
I'm Adam Whalen. I manage the Willamette Promise. My name is Josh Jones. I'm the pre-college coordinator at Oregon Tech. I help manage our dual credit offering for you guys.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I'm Susan Powell from Oregon State University.
I'm Josh Mills. I'm the Director of Government Relations for OSU, the University of Lafayette. I also teach a freshman level political science class at OSU. So if any of you are headed in our direction, I urge you to take a look at UEngage. Maybe I'll see you next fall.
I'm Candace Marks. I'm interning with Hilda Ashley at Atlanta Corner. I'm a graduate student at Oregon State. Doctoral research in areas of interest issues in equity and national solidarity.
Good morning. I'm Veronica Boucher, the director for I work with Ben at the Higher Education Coordinating Commission, and I'm the director for the public universities on academics.
Good morning, I'm Karen Beekirk, and I'm on Veronica's team. I work mostly on high school, post-secondary, and business.
I'm Randy Camp, I'm the Dean of Education at the University of Oregon, and I'm honored to be here. I'm looking forward to learning from you.
Hello, I'm Laura Hofer, and I teach culinary arts at South Salem High School. We make the cookies.
Hi, I'm Dana Rich. I'm the executive director of the Oregon Council of Presidents, a voluntary association of all of the public university presidents. So you probably didn't think there's another acronym for it after all the ones we're OPOM. Hi, I'm Allison Mooney. I'm the chief science officer also an American Organization volunteer, and I'm here because I come to the
I'm Kimberly Simone. I'm the Trio Talent Search Director for College Greens in Summit, Oregon. I'm also a college career preparation specialist at Hidden Valley High School.
Fred Hildebrand, I'm the Executive Director for College Dreams in Southern Oregon, based in Grants Pass, but serving Jackson and Josephine County doing college and career preparation.
All right, and at this point, it is an opportunity to turn it over to our facilitator so she can tell you a little bit about Oregon Student Voice.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Grace, and I'm a senior at Oregon City High School, and I'm also a member of Oregon Student Voice. So Oregon Student Voice is a statewide organization that works on partnering students with education stakeholders and working on creating a better education system for all Oregon students by having those authentic conversations between students and the people who are making decisions about their education. So today we have Raja also with us.
Hi, my name is Raja Moreno. I'm a junior at Lincoln High School, and I'm also the Amplify Director for Oregon Student Voice, which means I spend a lot of time down here in the Capitol and also out talking to students.
Are we introducing everybody? Okay.
Just to give you a little more information about what Oregon Student Voice is doing right now, to get the background, you can grab one of the pamphlets that are circulating in the room, I believe. But we also are releasing a report on March 6th on the state of the schools. So we've been working for the last year compiling qualitative and quantitative data with a statewide student survey about their education experience, as well as going into schools and holding focus groups, listening tours about what students have to say about their learning, what can be improved, and what's working well. So that report will be released on March 6th, and it's going to compile all of that information. But to get started, so this morning we had a really fantastic conversation with all of these lovely students from around the state. And so Raja and I will be co-facilitating this conversation between policymakers and education stakeholders and students, giving that opportunity for this conversation to take place. So before we get started, we just have a few requests for the education stakeholders in the room. So the first one would be to please refrain from sharing experiences on behalf of students, and instead let the students in the room share their own stories. And then second would be to please ask students follow-up questions. If you're curious about their experience, you'd like to learn more, please feel free to ask them more questions. And then the third would be to just brainstorm with students about how to improve their accelerated learning experience. So to save time, we're not going to go around the group and introduce everybody. So students, can you say your name and school before you answer their questions? Wonderful. So just to get started, our first question is, what types of student supports are most useful in helping you be successful in your accelerated learning courses? And I think, Tammy, we have you.
My name is Tammy, and I go to Early College High School. My whole school is Avidized, so they prepare us a lot for college. Every single class that we take is geared toward how to be successful.
So did you want to share a little about how Avid has helped you in that?
In Avid, we do a lot of how to be organized, how to manage our time, how to take notes, and how we can use those notes to understand the material. And if we have questions, we do things like PRS, and those you put the question, and then in a group setting you talk about the question, and your table mates will help you understand your question.
Hi, my name is Justin Thatch. I go to Westdale High School, and I consider the Aspire program to be one of the hidden treasures of our school. So, specifically with this program, it helps me to sharpen my focus going into the future with lots of applications to college, things like that. So it helps me pay for college, as well as get a better idea of what I want to do. So my Aspire coordinator really directs everything that goes on within the program, and she helps to show students, kind of direct us to our mentors and select mentors for us. So my mentor specifically has helped me with a lot of essay writing and kind of thinking about which colleges to go to. So it's really helped me to get a better idea of what I want to do in the future, as well as have a better bearing of the purpose of what I'm doing right now in school.
I'm Nicole Freeland, and I'm from Henry High School, and I'm a sophomore, so I'm kind of the youngest one here, and I haven't had a lot of opportunities to be in dual credit, but we have a lot of CTE programs at our school. So for example, we have ag, and we have health science, and we have aerospace engineering, and almost all of those are dual credit, which is awesome, because not only do you have an opportunity to learn about what you maybe want to do in life, but you also get to work towards getting college credits for that. For example, I am in ag communications and leadership, so I get to speak 111 credit, and I also get to learn about how to promote agriculture to the public.
Hi, I'm Josie Notter. I'm from Penn Valley High School, and I'm in College Dreams, a student in that program. It's a lot like Aspire in that they provide a lot of mentoring to students. They help with our academics, as well as just helping us with scholarship essays and prepare for college. What they do in particular, though, is they focus on students who have coming from low-income families, or they may be first-generation students who have the potential to go to college. And that's a very vital program in our school because we are mostly low-income based, and having that opportunity and that inspiration to students who don't have any college family members, like college graduate family members in their household, it gives them an opportunity to realize that they have the potential to go to college and get higher education.
So are there any questions from the education stakeholders in the room for students about support systems for accelerated learning courses?
Again, Ricardo with OSA. I'm hearing a lot of great programs from different students and how you all are taking advantage of them. And then oftentimes we also find ourselves in spaces where multiple programs might be available for an individual student. How do you go about choosing where to want to choose whether we're going through an AVID program or going through DreamWorks, right? College Streams. How do you make that decision, and if that's available for you?
Hi, my name is Sandra from Southside High School. At Southside, we both have Aspire and AVID, and I just take advantage of everything that's given there. I am an AVID, so I learned how to prepare for college, either like by time management or organization skills. And in Aspire, I get a lot of help to apply to college, and I just want to take advantage of everything I have. My name is Stephanie Aguilar, and I go to Southfield High School as well. And I'm involved in an academy that's just across the street with Will Emmett. And so they do like an introduction in 7th grade, so they have a like kind of skeptical because I was like, I don't even know if I can go to college. I have money for it. But my parents, were like my support system kind of like, always just try it, give it a try. What you can do for your future. So now 5 years later, I'm kind of thinking as to what I want to do and kind of go into that path that I want to go to.
Yeah, I have somewhat a line question, and that is, many of you, I'm sure, are being challenged with how do I balance this in my high school schedule? I've got this choice, this choice. If I do this, I can't be in band, or I can't this or that. Do you have good counseling support to help advise you, and this is really the better path of accelerated learning for you to go and pursue because of what your career goals are?
So at my school, so at Henry High School, we have multiple science programs, and it's kind of challenging to balance your schedule if, for example, you want to also be an SFA. I'm an SFA member, and one of the things that we offer through our agriculture education program is you can take a science class, such as plant science or animal science, and still get that science credit, and also be involved in what you want to be in. So that helps you balance out not only your extracurriculars, but also the different classes you want to take, such as but also 15 exploring classes.
At my school, we have both AP classes, CTE classes, and dual credit. And what our staff and administration really strive to do is when they're creating the class schedule, they make sure that every AP class does not contradict with another AP class. And then they go to the CTE classes. They make sure that the FBLA does not contradict with any of the electives. And then they go so forth in the schedule so that those students who are striving to get that dual credit, that CTE, that AP classes, they get that chance and they're given that best opportunity, best alternative.
So within the Salem President District in particular, there's a really huge emphasis on the arts and investing in the arts. So a lot of programs will require or encourage students strongly to take 2 periods of a certain art class. So that in my situation, that was the case. But I found that through a lot of self-advocacy and really prioritizing my interests and my academic goals, I was able to find a schedule that would work for me. But it took a lot of independent thought and advocating for myself in order to get that. So I think that when you're balancing out your schedule, at least in my situation, it has to do a lot with your own priorities and how far you're willing to go to be able to get the schedule that you want. And with regards to the Aspire programs, the AVID programs, like the Aspire program in particular has, it's really unique in that you're able to get the help that you need outside of school. So that's the best part about it for someone who wants to take a lot of challenging classes and fill their schedule with it. So, yeah.
Yes. I saw a hand back.
That was, that gentleman asked my question.
Perfect.
So I have the opposite question. You've all mentioned Aspire, AVID, I know there's Gear Up. There's a lot of great programs out there. How many of you are not in one of those formal programs? Okay, so this is for those of you who aren't in a formal program. How do you get the kind of support in your school that your colleagues who are in Aspire are getting? You know, how do you navigate without that kind of program around?
Well, a large part of it comes from support from counselors. I have an excellent counselor at my school, and she helps me understand where I need to go. I go to an IB school in high school, and so understand where I need to go to be on track for graduation and for earning my IB diploma. And so it comes down to counselor support and teacher support that kind of makes up for the lack of that kind of cohesive program.
So my name is Shy Violet Herring, and I am a senior at Jefferson High School. Most of my courses I am taking right now are dual enrollment courses, and we don't really have a program set in that. We're starting to implement AVID, but we're not fully there yet. And so what we get to utilize is, since we're such a small school, our class size is probably 70 if you would run. We all are in the same classes in our senior year because everyone who's striving to get into the honors programs or dual enrollment or get college credit, we're all shifted into the same kind of, we get dual enrollment credits for prerequisites and biology, writing, speech, and all those kind of things. And they kind of fit together and we work together. If someone's struggling, we kind of help pick them back up and introduce them to these different scholarships and different opportunities that they might not without having a program.
Hi, I'm Meg. I'm from South Salem High School, along with a couple of the students here. At my school, I'd say that the counselors are really essential for our college preparation. It starts in middle school, mostly 8th grade. The counselors itself, they're coming to the middle school now. It's Leslie. They're introducing us to the IB program. They're encouraging us to join the IB program. They also encourage us to do the IB program if that's an available option for you. And all throughout high school, counselors are, always talking to us about options and Aspire. And so I think they were they played a really important role in my life into getting ready for college. Although I do wish that they talked to me a little bit more about scholarships and college preparing my freshman and sophomore year. I think it was more towards my senior year that they started to mention scholarships and things like that to me. I'm the oldest one in my family, so I wish that could have been introduced to me a little bit earlier.
I'm curious, how much your dual credit coursework is done right on your high school campus versus going to your local college to take some of those classes? Maybe you could see a show of hands on that one first before we get individual responses on campus and going to the college. So sometimes both.
Hi, I'm Rhea. I go to ECHS, so I'm another student. And my program in particular is really nice with integrating specific courses into the building so we don't have to travel. And although my particular school is maybe like a 10-minute walk from the big campus, I do have to walk, and so it's not difficult, but we're lucky enough to have professors come to our location, which is makes it more comfortable and less scary for incoming students, which is really, really helpful, and I think it's pivotal in our success, being comfortable in our learning environment.
So my name is Brian Josephson. I go to South Central High School, and we have both classes that are offered on our campus that are offered at Rogue Community College as well as SOU, Southern Oregon University. And we have also partnered with our local Rogue Valley Transportation District to provide transport for our students to the Table Rock campus, which is a ways away, but they offer many different career training courses that we don't offer at our high school, but that students can take advantage of. And that is a place where you might not see necessarily college credit, but it prepares students for careers, and I think that's really important. And I think that's something that is sometimes missed in these preparation courses where we're saying, how can we prepare students for college, but career readiness is also important, and being able to take those classes, at a college campus where they might have a welding station is very important.
Just to take up time and get to all the questions.
Are you taking synchronous or asynchronous courses? That real courses. Oh, okay. In your pajamas on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, does anyone like
does anyone take them
online?
You can just like raise your hand.
AJ, hi.
So with my 11 courses that I've taken 3 online courses through Connecticut, besides the other dual enrollment courses. So these are kind of through the school, but I did have to pay for them.
For those of you who've taken dual enrollment classes both on a college campus and on your high school campus, I was hoping you could compare the benefits of going to the college campus versus staying on your high school campus.
Hello, my name is Simon Correa, and I am a senior at Health and Science High School. So for the first 3 years of my high school career, I took dual credit classes at my high school, and I was able to accumulate about 90 college credits. Now, at the time I had 30 high school credits, so I needed 24 to graduate. So when my senior year came, I asked myself, what can I do to better get closer to my goal? So I found an opportunity, and that was to take classes at a campus at the Oregon Institute of Technology, Portland Metro campus. And so I took college courses there, and I actually took a 200-level human anatomy physiology course. And because of the dual credit classes that I've taken through high school that have really prepared me for the intensity of a college course, I was actually able to finish the fall term in human anatomy physiology with 101%, and that is a very tough class. And I'm actually taking the second one now, and I just had my midterm on 98. I got 98% on that. And actually, after this, I'm actually heading to take another midterm for my in a couple hours, I'm taking another midterm for my programming class. But really, my point is that all the dual credit classes I've taken at my high school have greatly helped me learn how to study and understand that a college class is really intense, and that you have to meet the deadlines in order to make it.
So my name's Taryn Sykes, and I go to Early College High School. When we first start taking college classes, we take it at our high school in a room with a college instructor. And it's like pretty much the same as if you go to the campus and take the classes at Checkers campus. But they somewhat they know that we're all high school students still, so they kind of give us slack, and at the college level they don't at all, and I think that's good because that's the way to do it.
If I may, just a dynamic with the students here today that we got off to a roaring start. I want to formally welcome you guys. We're honored to have you here. I want to thank all the higher ed and K-12 partners that are part of this working process. We do want to give you some time to ask questions and make any comments you want to make, as we're, as a larger work group, starting to sit down today and talk about some more specific policy action. So thank you for being here and on Oregon's birthday.
Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay, and happy birthday, Oregon. And I'm Governor Kate Brown. Delighted to be here with you. I actually don't have a lot of comments. I'm really intrigued and really want to hear from you about what we can do to ensure that your path is more successful. I have to say I'm pretty much ready to fire my entire team and hire all of you. You guys are so impressive. But I really do want to hear from you about what we can do to make high school and the transition a success for all of our students. And your comments, particularly about career readiness, resonated with me because we have a lot of students that we're leaving behind because we are focused on college readiness. And I think that's critically important. Don't get me wrong. I also want to make sure that we have pathways available for students who are not interested or have other interests in mind that aren't requiring college. So thank you. I'm just delighted to be a part of this. And you guys are extremely impressive. Makes me proud and gives me hope for the future. Yeah.
So, what advice, the whole panel, what advice do you have on how to improve students' access to and understanding the value of earning college credits while in high school?
So again, my name's Sandra. I was born in Mexico, and I am a DACA recipient. So in my high school, my sophomore year, there is an IB diploma. Yeah, you can be an IB diploma candidate. And I saw there wasn't a lot of Hispanics, and that impacted me a lot. So that motivated me to go on the path of an IB diploma, and maybe me motivating someone else. And I noticed that still now, there isn't a lot of people that I know could totally go through this path and take dual credit classes and do the IB diploma, but I feel like we should push students more to do this. Because I know there's a lot of people out there who can totally do this and work with it fine, that are too afraid to try. Because at least at Flushing High School, there's some sort of division between the IB diploma and regular classes, and I think this is a good time to break that and allow more kids and encourage them to do enroll in classes.
So I would just follow up, what support, what encouragement would you provide to other students to move into the IB program?
Personally, I feel like there's the regular teachers that give regular classes. I took a regular history class one semester, and I feel like they don't push people enough, and they don't motivate them. They're like, hey, here's an IB diploma. I think you can totally do this, or take an IB course. I know Avid does push, or requires us to have at least one IB class, but I feel like as a school as a whole, we should require at least one student. We should require students to take at least one higher level class, because I feel like anyone can do that. Hi, I'm Nicole, and at Henley, it's a moderately smaller school compared to all of the schools here, and that has advantages and disadvantages. I think one of the advantages is that you do make that connect with teachers, like you were saying.
where they might take an interest in you by saying, hey, you could totally do this if you set your mind to it, but at the same time, we don't have Ivy. I don't really know what Avid is, and I don't know what Aspire is either. So they don't really talk about that at our schools. Klamath is a smaller town, so I think that if we do have that opportunity presented to us, we have a lot of resources. OIT is in Cedar Falls. We go to OIT for a lot of our courses, but we don't always have those opportunities brought to us. We might have those opportunities, but we're not aware of them. And I think it would be really important to either have like an orientation day or a specific class that gets you ready to take those courses, because I think that's really important. And if we don't know about these courses, then we can't take advantage of them.
So I personally just moved to Oregon this year from New Jersey. And so the past 15 years of my education have been in the New Jersey environment. And one thing that I found is really strong within confines of both women and getting our classes is that there's a really strong pro-learning and pro-education culture. So from a young age, you learn that the teachers are there to help you and to guide you along your path. And that's one of the strongest things that has stuck with me throughout my whole education, because that is what has led me to, lead myself advocacy in terms of getting the education that I want. And I think that in schools today, like all around the nation, something that we could really be focusing on to get kids involved in these enrollment programs and the higher education programs is, cultivating that sense of community and drive for learning from a young age. So I think that really starts, quite honestly,
in my school, the administration, college prep specialists, and the teachers all really work together so that we can provide this information to students that this is offered. In any class that has dual credit CTE or has an AP college credit attached to it, in the first couple of weeks of that course, if you sign up for it, you're told you have this option to sign up for this credit. There may or may not be a fee. If you're interested in having this credit or having this on your college transcript, go ahead, come to our office, and we can help you get that set up. And if a teacher does see students who they know will excel in this accelerated program, they'll specifically come and talk to you, saying, hey, I see the potential in you. You are really, really diligent in your work. I saw that you worked hard in your freshman English class. I want you to jump up and do honors your sophomore year and AP or junior year. I see this happening in the future. And I really love that about my school, that they have this cohesive communication and collaboration to try and help as many students as they possibly can. One thing that's really nice about our school is that dual enrollment credits and courses are kind of available to everyone, but it's those who actually earn the credit get the credit. So it's really nice because people who didn't think that they could probably get the credit, they get to try, and then they're not getting a fault if they don't get the credit. They're earning the credit, or they get the class grade and the credit for high school.
Hi, I'm Rhea, and I go to CHS, and I've been to after her. I was born in Klamath, and I'm enrolled in Klamath Native American tribe, and one of the perks of being enrolled Native is Indian Ed, or Indian education. And although it's immensely helpful in, providing academic help when you need it, as well as family help if you're lower income, I feel personally it lacks information on programs like IB, Avid. I went to online schools for most of my middle school career, and just by chance I was able to find out about DCHS. And I feel like if they incorporated knowledge about those special programs into stuff like Indian Ed, and it would inspire a lot more, and you would see a lot more diverse students and willing students to participate. Thank you.
I've heard a lot of positive comments. I'm going to see if there's some negative comment. That is, what kind of feedback, if any of you, have you received from upperclassmen that you know that did a whole lot of accelerated learning? How did it work for them, and what advice did they recommend to you?
At South, when I would talk to like some of the other classes that I would know from Learn Academy, they would say, "Don't take the class. It's hard. Don't do it." And you know, you should like at first, like in that community that we have, we should like build up and like say you can at least try, because we're all trying to get to college and get to that atmosphere of college. But I tried the class right now, which I'm in college algebra. It's pretty hard for me, but I still have to communicate with the teacher. I'm not naturally that person to give up. But like I feel like communication is a key that person didn't have, that important aspect in their life to like communicate with a teacher. And so when I communicate with the teacher, I like automatically tell him what I don't understand, and I think that's something that they didn't come to me with when they said don't take the class. Maybe that's why I didn't feel that way.
So one of the biggest pieces of advice that upperclassmen gave to me as we were moving through, we have AP at South Memphis High School. And one of the biggest pieces of advice was look into credit policies at the institutions that you are considering attending, because the credit policies are not just different private versus public institutions, they're different public institutions within the state of Oregon. And so that makes it very difficult to know exactly where you're going to go, and I think it is important to consider what credit you would wish to transfer and where, and that was a big influencing factor for me when choosing my institution of choice this year.
But we have time for just one more audience question. I thought, yes.
So have any of you been in a program called either Oportunidades or Juntos? Okay, so and my question is, these are programs that are put out by two of our larger universities in Oregon. They focus on family support for students trying to earn credit in high school and prepare them for a college-going experience. Do any of the programs you've participated in provide full family support, like your whole family comes, and would that be helpful?
Yes, at Southfield High School, we have a FAIR program. Earlier this year, they had 2 college nights, and the first night it was a FAFSA night, and your parents were required to come with you, and that truly helped a lot of us. It informs not just us, but our parents and how they can support us when applying to college. And then later they had a scholarship night, and they also gave them and us more information about scholarships provided from Oregon and from our school.
So my school district has actually been trying very hard to make sure that the family and parents are involved in a student's transition from high school into college. And so they've been offering seminars where they explain, one of them was about FAFSA, but another one was about scholarships and how families can support students as they look at going away for college. And so I think it's important to get those whole family interactions, because at the end of the day, it's not just the student that is attending college. It's hard on mom when you go away. You need dad's advice. And so making sure that everyone who's involved is involved, I think that's very important.
So we're going to have you guys get together and take a picture with the governor and celebrate Oregon's birthday.
All right. Can we hear applause for our students? Also, we want a big thank you to not only the students, but their families, the educators of the schools, and all of you, because we did change locations a number of times. We apologize. It's a lovely room, isn't it? Okay. That's nice. West Salem. Really important, right? So I heard that said, and the deputy superintendent, so tell people about
change stuff, right? We can make that, that's an easy fix. That's really easy to fix. His comments are a little bit harder, but the students can fix it. But that's really important. Like, sometimes you want to be a doctor, and then 2 years later you decide you're going to be a lawyer, right? So maybe you wanted to go to OSU, and now you want to go to U of O. We want to make sure credit and throughout the public. All right. This is great. Callie, nice to meet you. I'll come say hi to you guys as well. All right, I'm going to put my hand around your waist. Okay.
Pretend, students, pretend you love each other. Pretend you love each other. Come on. Easy.
Not getting
Hold on, coming. Alright. Is everybody ready? One.
Yeah, use louder.
Alright, everybody look over here. 1, 2, 3. Alright, let's do it again. 1, 2, 3. Alright, now I'm going to get the center and do it with the big camera.
I also want to introduce Jacket is Representative Solomon. She's a relatively new member of the Oregon legislature, and she's a rock star. So, all right, so excited to hear you guys speak your voice. Great.
And we're gonna hop up on. All
right, 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Oregon!
Happy birthday, Oregon! Thank you all so much. Yay! So students, you can leave your chairs there, and I'll say hello. Very great. Thank you. I'm just trying to figure out. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I think that I'm sitting here till probably like we gotta go. Thank you.
I know, I just got a little bit excited.
Did you get him?
Oh, it was more? Okay, let me get a picture with your camera. Okay, so,
Right down.
That's a great
Hustle.
Yeah. Business card and 986. And it's Jan, J-A-N-E-E-N, and then Solomon, S-O-L-O-N. Perfect. Yeah, I think it'd be great if you could submit written testimony, exactly what you would say, and then.
I just have to see what.
And you just submit that to the
I'd love a second.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then also, we'd just love to get some of your thoughts. Hopefully, if this is going to make it able to take this forward, I'd love to share your thoughts.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you don't even have to. I just, yeah.
It is always fun.
If you want to be there, we'll find your
Yes, I've made the trade. It's all good. I've worked with Representative Martin.
Oh.
Yeah, she is my representative.
Wonderful. Well, I am going to. I'm going to share that.
Are you doing? That's pretty weird to say. I feel like I should have heard that. No, with SOU, yes. Okay. I'm a SOU alum. Oh, Nashville. So I was born in Nashville. Do you live in Nashville? I don't.
That would be great.
Give me one of your attention.
Great.
Dude. You guys were.
Yeah, we're going to be. Oh, you got it. That's why I like ran over there, because I want to picture right now. Where are you? Either New York or
Oh, 75.
Oh, you got a really good one.
I'm already.
Yeah.
Close call.
I know.
Thank you for listening to what we have. Do you have any questions for us at all?
Are they doing something else after this, or are we done?
No.
Like the agenda?
Well, I think that the committee or the work group, whatever it is going to continue. Yeah. Everything else on the agenda is because what they're doing. Yeah, we're done.
Not only is it in the
identifier.
not just your career. Yeah, England does a much better job of that. I think
store like that. So yeah, I got it. Great. Yeah, I heard that a few times, and I'm not sure. Is that I think it's started in I could. If you reach out to me, let me give you my card. And then, yeah. Pretty selective.
Yeah, they are now becoming 60 and hope to hire the end of the role. Actually, we have our own sale.
So good to see you. All right, we'll see you around.
Thank you, you were fabulous. And you got a connection now with
Yes.
Oregon Student Voice.
Perfect.
I can't. When I was like, what I've seen so far is like Temecula and like
sample members to make their way back to the back here, and our guests that are joining us for our meeting. There are still some Oregon cookies, so grab one. Thank you.
Garnish. I know. Yeah, no, knock yourself out. I want to compete. Ben, how's it going? Oh, so cute. I wonder if
Beautiful cookies, right?
maybe I'll take one.
You won't get these anywhere else.
You know, glitter in the glue. There is glitter. They didn't pull on they went. Dazzled it up.
Hi, Representative. How's it going over there? Yeah. Well, it's been pretty quiet as far as higher ed goes. I mean, there's always something. Right?
Things that were coming through that were really hard in a lot of communities. Like the tuition.
Yeah, that's on the path now. We got the accelerated learning bill ready to go.
Yeah, we're hoping, I think there was some issues with some of the amendments, but I think we might type it.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
Good.
Important work.
Yep. Some budget stuff. Sure, but
It's funny that some of those universities, they're not getting this question. 5 years. Whatever's going on.
it's
I'm sure when one of them was
There's we're making good progress with the House Bill 2998 implementation. That's like foundational. You guys passed.
It worked out just fine.
Really, the state committee that we have with faculty from all the schools here landed on this. We've reported on this. Has really landed on 30 credit curriculum that we fully transfer. And so now the next problem that I through is that when we can align the dual,
And we have more stuff coming.
those 30, we said that the high schools are focus on dual credit in those areas, then they shouldn't have to. Within that 30 credit, like for everybody will do this, and it will be fully transferable. No questions. And as applied towards the GenEd requirements. So we think we've made a good step forward. It's mostly about the 2-year to 4-year transfer issue. That's where the design cost down.
We gotta get and head out to
credit in that 30 years.
But I'm gonna.
I'm gonna still keep it working. We need that bill that you guys passed. So
I'm good.
yeah.
Are you gonna have it's like so warm in here?
Yeah, no, I'm waiting to get my share and I'll on the road.
All right, I got a couple of cookies for you and Jordan.
And sweet, so yeah, if you want to.
Okay, I gotta. Yeah. Oh yeah, yep. Yeah, and yeah. Should see my excitement. Talk about the biggest one of our that you're taking in high school. Incorporated voice software. And he's also going to put in a letter.
Have a cookie.
Thank you so much. Here's another amendment.
I mean, it's going to be like hundreds of thousands of dollars to schools. Because if they have it, it's
all we need right now is a statement.
anything that's going to cost hundreds.
I don't think it's safe.
Get ready.
That's why we have to.
There's a lot of crying and tears out of Corvallis because someone Sunday her brother loves her. I'm just saying.
Hey, Rep. Salmon, you're welcome to join us. We're going to go ahead and start on the side. That'd be so awesome, yeah. I should get out of here.
Here, I want to thank Hilda and the broader team and Oregon Student Voice for having the conversation today. I also want to apologize for the somewhat awkward setup that we have. You're not on trial if you're in the audience. So, the governor's presence today was very intentional. First, I think in articulating her values that we really each other approach to this work. And the continued opportunity to hear from students and their experience helps to guide us in our work. As we dive into some of the conversations today, I'd like to move an item sort of up on the agenda, or we might actually be right on time for it, which is developing a policy framework to expand accelerated learning opportunities, and tie that back into the governor's presence, because I think she's very clear with myself and with the broader agency team that getting to some policy action to make sure that we are truly really building a seamless system when it comes to dual credit is a priority. And as we think of this work, we're going to, I think, move from a really important process of plumbing deep around our shared assumptions and understandings of the system, our different views potentially, the different cultures that we're working across in terms of both sectors. And I want to be really clear about that outcome and the expectation. We've expanded this group a little bit from our institutional education leaders to include some of the folks in the legislative session, and we of course scheduled a 3-hour meeting, which is hard for them to all tend to but
high school class. Really involved in dual credit, all of these accelerated. And actually where they're thinking of going. And I mean, they were all across the board, from Stanford, from, a lot of them going back to some of these schools, in some questions, yeah, because it's so excellent. So whatever we can do, let's do it to really facilitate that. But keeping a good rush of this is what students that are wanting to go to the wonderful institutions we have here, but also really looking beyond our borders. It speaks highly of us. I don't know if that was off topic or not.
the free thing.
Yeah.
I can't think their entire mission is to help strong students who come from very elite backgrounds make college. And they start off with so local, and they get them into credit, and really it just opens the door, and most of those students wind up going to large universities. Well, and they come back to us later, and we are now seeing this population of college students, graduates, back, and it's starting to take over how they were.
I feel a little bit of a dilemma when there's comments. I heard the resonance that she felt in response to oriented
traditional sort of, you know, degree-oriented higher education, right? The need for direct to career-oriented training, that resonated for me. As too did the young woman who said she was concerned that not enough students were getting the college opportunities, were challenging themselves to take college courses, or were being encouraged to, and then in fact there may be there may be sort of tracking going on at a young age, sort of sorting between those who are college bound and those who are not. So both of those things resonated, and there's some sort of tension between them. I think the one way that I try to see my way through that is to acknowledge that for most students, if not all, some form of post-secondary education, maybe CTE training at the Eagle Rock campus at Roe, but it results in some form of post-secondary education, even if it's not an associate degree or sometimes even find ourselves in, you know, is the student going to college or not, right? Which that's almost not the right framework, right? Are they college bound or not? They are all, they should all be post-secondary bound, or most of them should be post-secondary bound, even if it's not degree oriented. So,
just to kind of piggyback maybe on that I love the kids, they're always impressive, always. Even though maybe it just does too much of that. But I worry a little bit about the idea of first feeling an effort on the part of someone to make sure that they're I like if there are special programs. I think the programs that get listed are really strong here. I would so hope that kids could come through our program and just P through 20, not have anyone have to do something extra special, but a program that for all kids that is special. So that every kid has an opportunity to have parents that are capable. But what we find is and to have special programs set up. I want all of our kids to have that. Sometimes it's part of how we
The hour that we spent with the students this morning, and the 420 students that responded, phase 2 of this survey rated again for me, something that's perplexing of how we're going to address it, and that is how many of them talk about teachers as being the critical people. And I just know, and Randy, I'll ask you later, you don't have to say now, but it seems like when I think about secondary teacher preparation, it's just not a big part of what we do to help them understand that, by the way, you are going to sometimes be the person.
Hi, everyone. Carita with Camp for Children. I'm new to this work group, so I'm just working on orienting myself to the goals and the objectives. One of the things I'm away with, kind of piggybacking off of what Sylvan did when it comes to educators, counselors, one of the things, you know, some of the things that we're learning from the University of Chicago is freshman success. It's about having a strong team to do the work. We can do a lot around policy and development, and the policy can be a lever, but when it comes down to it, I want our I know there's going to be more partners in this work too, but that's something that I'm thinking about as well to ensure that the rubber meets the road. And when it comes to professional learning, especially at the secondary level, oftentimes it's very dated and it's not really tailored. And so figuring out what does that look like and off from some of the work that's happening around our state to really speak that to the next
So building on that, one question I didn't ask them, but that I was thinking about as they were discussing their experiences is an easier way to go about this is just to stay siloed to high schools that works on high school curriculum and higher ed institutions work on higher ed curriculum. You focus on the learning and the development of skills and college and career readiness, but you take away the college credit from that experience. So thinking big and as a system, if that college credit element didn't exist, would they still engage in that learning? Would the standards still be as high and rigorous? And what I think I was hearing from them is it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be the hook that gets them there, and it wouldn't be that high school teacher, having a little bit of a higher standard about the way that they're interacting with their students. So I think it is very time-intensive and hard work to do these partnerships. The teacher-to-teacher faculty relationships are intense, but they're worth it. So how do we support them? And that builds on how do we develop space for professional development for them to really develop this and value to that credit, because that credit is an integral to what accelerated learning is.
There's a brand new report out from the Community College Survey of Student Engagement about the impact of advice. And as I was reading through that yesterday, one of the things that struck me was that we're still very siloed in our advising. The high school advisors do their thing, and the college advisors do theirs. Their thing and things that advisors have to deal with. And shocking thing was the misinformation that high school counselors have about college credit, not just community college credit, but any college credit, what it will count for. So, if we're going to pursue this vigorously, we not only have to worry about cross-training of faculty, we have to worry about cross-training advisors.
Shifting topics slightly on this, but looking at the policy paper that you put on the table, funding is number one. This goes back to a conversation from last summer at this group. I'm glad to see that funding is on top, and I still think there are important structural issues that need to be fixed about how some community college presidents, not Kathy, talk about recently is competition between where high schools are hitting higher ed institutions against each other and trying to get dual credit offered for free. Essentially saying, like, you can't come to my school unless you offer it. But faculty members' time costs money. Advising time costs money. Training for instructors costs money. So to pretend that it's free or to make it free to high schools and force higher ed institutions to absorb the cost in very different ways, I think that creates tensions between higher ed institutions that keep them from working well together and working well with higher ed institutions, or excuse me, with the high schools themselves. since you gave us a good segue to the policy framework, maybe we'll just have Hilda walk us through this, but just timeline and process. I think one of the things that we'd like to do is use this table as a place that meets probably a couple of times between now and summer, where we're likely getting some input from some subgroups that we'd like to create around these four areas. And so I think we do want to have a conversation about folks want to be engaged with those subgroups. We would assume members of this working group as a whole would be involved in that. But maybe before we get to that conversation, I'll just kind of walk us through the groups and their charges and kind of key questions that we want to have them address.
So we also have Dan Milkey on the phone. I know how hard it is to be on the phone line and try to raise your hand. So Danny, do you have anything you wanted to share relative to comments that you heard us sharing earlier?
No, I don't have anything to add other than, as everyone knows, I'm an advocate moving forward in accelerated learning activities. And, you know, the one of the last comments being made was if we're really going to do all these things and do them well, and we've been fortunate to have the opportunities to have the funding and do things well as part of Eastern Promise, it's important that we have that investment if we're really going to do this right.
Hilda, this is Mark Mulvihill, Intermountain ESD. I've been on as well, just to let you know.
Great.
And Hilda, this is Sandra Fowler-Hill at PC. I've been on as well. My observation from the students is that it sounds like some of them ended up in courses that provide college credit and they didn't even know that that's what they were in. So I think a constant theme that we hear is just that awareness of where are the opportunities for accelerated learning and how do you enter into them rather than just you appear and you realize that's where you are.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Anybody else on the phone? All right. So for those of you who may be new to this group or who are joining us today, we began in March at a slower pace. At the time, we thought we had an amendment and a bill that didn't go forward that would have speeded things up, House Bill 2313. But now we're at a point where we're looking back to see we've dug into four big areas, one being around funding. And again, a big thank you to Sandra Hill Fowler who helped us test out some models. And I tried to identify on this sheet what we think maybe the risks are that we have to dig into for getting to the policy and recommendations, but I'm very interested in your input on this. And then I started to list below the resources that we've either tapped into already, but I'm welcoming you to add other resources to this that you think the subgroup will have to take a closer look at. So the very first one under funding, and by the way, we're also asking you to step forward and let us know your interest in serving on one of these groups. You can serve on all of them if you'd like, but do a lot of this by webinar or phone. Yeah, there's laughter in the room. But we hope to do some of that communication through phone and webinar, particularly because we don't want people just having to travel for a 2-hour meeting. The funding, we were breaking apart the idea that there could need to be startup funds for areas of the state that may still need to develop a partnership, because to get folks together cross-sector does take some initiative and some time, and that costs money usually. And then there's the idea of how you sustain the funding and equally fund or equitably fund the supports for both educators, and if there's a cost, leveling that out. We have everything from full cost to zero cost in the state right now. And I keep coming back to, I don't know, the number 35 keeps coming back to me, because I keep hearing that somehow
groups are finding a way to do that, but they're doing it because they're getting some additional funding. And so what we have to do is tease out what is the magic window that could make this equitable so that we do avoid that issue of pitting colleges against each other from the high school perspective. Then the last thing is that the cost of bringing faculty together and faculty and high school instructors has a fiscal to it. We are also working on this at OEA. He couldn't join us today, but they're looking at it from, and they ironically have members in OEA who are in the community college, and they have members in OEA who are at the high school level. So it's an interesting dynamic there. And at some point, I would love for him to come in and share with us what's surfacing in their discussions. But we know that has a cost there as well. The resources that we have so far, we know that we have the opportunity to look at the plans that are coming in this spring for Measure 98 to be able to have a better understanding of what high schools are hoping to do and how they kind of see those costs working out. And I look down to Janelle because she's like this amazing resource that's going to be helping us highlight some of those trends. We also looked at some of the models. You may recall that was something that we did in April and May and June of last year. So we're ready now to have a smaller group really dig into that, test it out with what you know to be true in your areas that you work in, and to a plan. And we also have continued our work with ECS and doing an analysis of what we learned from other states and their policies and practices at the national level. So I'll stop there. First of all, are there some other, either under resources or issues that you would want to see added there? And we'll wait till the very end for people to kind of say, oh, signing up for that.
I guess it's a question, Hilda. Under the second bullet, and I'm kind of thinking you may have described it that way, but I'm not sure. There's the equitable and sustainable funding method for providing. Are you intending the same as and I think that has an inequitable impact on students. So it's the intention that not only we find sources that all districts, community colleges have the avail themselves of, but also that the actual expenses would be similar. Yes.
Good. Wait. Yes.
In terms of resources, I don't know how we're going to fund yet, but you know, think of your participation in the transfer work group. The next phase that we know is going to be building out the unified statewide transfer agreement by year. So we will have to convene faculty by discipline to start thinking about what college credits need to build up in order for students to be able to transfer with, to insert some of these questions about curriculum, about funding, about high school, college, university, instructor partnership to those discipline-specific meetings, which we have yet to figure out when they'll be, what they'll look like. But I think they're going to happen in the next several months, so there can be an add-on opportunity there.
That's a great point to add. Anybody else on those two areas? A comment on both of them. On the funding one, we don't really call out advisors anywhere in that third bullet. And I think we're looking at trying to create a CTE early college right now, and advising is the big sticking point. So if we could maybe specifically call that out, because that don't feel like they have the resources to provide an advisor, and we're also, so trying to figure out how we're going to meet that need is challenging. And on the credit transfer, I was involved in a project a few years ago that ran parallel to, kind of in concert with the transfer of student learning outcomes across English writing, that especially in English, there was in that particular area of the country, there was a real disconnect in language in high school English classes versus college English classes. So we might do the same thing, but we were using different words to make that ask. And so the students would just place terrible. Their placement scores were awful in writing because they didn't understand the instructions and what we were asking them to do. And language and the learning outcomes, there was a huge drop in remediation for writing.
That's an excellent example there. What state was that? Texas. No? So we've moved into group 2, unless there was anything else to add to group 1.
All right, so credit transfer, I think this succinctly sort of builds upon both the discussions that we've had plus the work of the House Bill 2998, which I think is paving a wider pathway for guiding the high schools in terms of what they offer. I want to also call out that we're joined today by Candace Ross. And what didn't work? What were the unintended consequences? Because that's the most valuable learning that you never get by just looking at a policy. So we're really looking forward to that. And then I know that Patrick and Veronica will be keeping us posted on House Bill 2998. And then, of course, some of you are monitoring the House Bill 4053, which we'll hear a little bit more about later. That's looking at an annual report, trying to get a better sense of what credits. So those pieces are kind of our resource group there. Are there any additional bullets that you would add here as we think about that particular section of our work?
I would like to add something to what you were saying about what I'm doing. So I am looking for credit transfer accelerated learning. However, when I pull the policy documents, as you all know, there's 400 other topics they cover in the same document. I'm going ahead and coding those things for things like funding and instructor quality, course quality, things like this. So as I'm further along in the coding and looking through, if you're in a group that's working in one area, hit me up and see if I have that info coded that I can.
She'll be invited to all the work group meetings.
Right. Just to let you know.
All right, that's it. Wonderful, thank you so much.
So,
yes, in House Bill 2998, there was a call for a tool or something that would allow students to, be able to cross institution. I think that's an excellent idea, and where are we on that? Because that's exactly what I'm thinking I'm hearing, this, and that would just be awesome.
So I can comment on that. First, glad to hear your support. Glad to hear your support on the governor's education policy side. That was one of the recommendations that came out of the work group report for the HEC. I think it's, at this point, as an agency, we're working on our policy option packages and our agency request budget. So we'll have to work through the agency process to prioritize that against all the other things, and Ben can make that decision.
Well, yeah, I mean, the underlying story being, while there is a recommendation for a tool, there is not a tool, nor is there funding designated for the development of the tool. So we're looking ahead to potential legislative support, governor support for the development of such tools. That's really where we are, and that would be before 2019.
But it's a great, I mean, it's a good way to keep things up to date. You know, a lot of times we end up with, we can do these one-off, but then we've got something that's constantly updating them.
Yeah, and I think the request for that has come from all corners of the transfer. This isn't just one constituency advocate.
So maybe, Candace, in your work, you could be checking to see do any of these states have something like that, that would allow a portal or a portal, or how are they managing it as well?
If I run across that in a policy document.
You flag it. Yeah, that'd be great.
I'll add a couple pieces here. I'm gonna pass this down only because I've been asked to.
This is getting into the details a little bit, but our staff, working up the transfer proposal a few years ago, did an initial survey about tools that states use. So we can provide that to you, and we could build an update on that. Two places that, and people I've talked to are Idaho and North Dakota. Idaho ID Transfer was the name of their initial tool, but as described to me, it was around $200,000 to build, which is not expensive for what it does. What it does is not what you would expect. It registrars updated every year, so that's why for institutions this is a list. But they update how credits have transferred. So it's a snapshot look in time about what is really happening. It's not an articulation agreement. It's how credits are moving in the system. It's real. But that does give students an idea of how that credit has traveled around in their state. In North Dakota, about $1 million to build, they described to me, a system for high school transcripts that relies on something called an e-transcript that includes their dual credit enrollment on their high school transcript, and that's an official record. They're able to put all kinds of other things, exam scores, directly from the college board, put them on the high school transcript, and have that be an official record. Partly, I mention that because in credit transfer for the high school students transitioning to post-secondary, there's a big loss in when they don't send their transcripts or when they don't send their AP exam scores. In Oregon, I think 50% of them who score 3 or higher in AP are not even sending the score anywhere. So if that can be automated, now, are we relieving them of some of their responsibility and getting their paperwork done? Yeah, but this is a really big problem. And so I think partly we'll talk about the bill, but the bill to sort of track where the transfer credits are going would miss that student who didn't send their transcripts anywhere. And we're really interested in making sure students are able to be mobile and have it sort of automated. So that's another idea, North Dakota, and I can put you in touch with the person that works on it there. Interestingly, they work in the state longitudinal database. The person does programming. So sorry, going in a rabbit hole. But.
Yeah, I think I just heard Aaron volunteer.
No, I want to be on group 3.
Resources. So one is specifically, have you guys looked into the State University of New York? They use their Race to the Top fund to create some tools. I was just looking online at them. So I don't know if it's exactly what would be of interest to Oregon, but they seem to have done some innovative things. And also
you may be able to, the Regional Educational Laboratory may be able to support you with some of your research, and, you know, this group with, digging into what's out there, and, if you need support, we can talk and maybe we can collaborate, if there's too much for you to do. And then the third resource I want to add is a plug for the, our new, accelerated learning report that should be coming out in a few months, that will provide updated data for Oregon on equity and access to all different types of accelerated learning, so dual credit, sponsored dual credit from the Regional Promise or Eastern Promise sites, AP, IB, things like that. And then we look at how that relates to student outcomes, high school graduation, college enrollment, college persistence. And then the last piece is we're really trying to look at credit transfer. It's very difficult with the statewide data, but we're going to try and have some findings on what students are experiencing in terms of transferring their dual credits to a public university, and what they're specifically experiencing with when they earn college math or college English credits in high school. What are they taking in college? Community college, university, are they taking a remedial course? Hopefully not at the same level course, an advanced course, which we hope, and so we can report on that at least. And so that might help with group 2 as well.
Did I hear you say that this group would get one of the first sneak previews of the report?
Well, yes, we'd like for feedback, but they're going to be, like, before it's published, the results are really confidential, so we'll have to really keep that tight. But yeah, we need feedback before this is published, so we make sure that what is out there publicly is accurate and aligned with what everyone needs.
At risk of stating the obvious around the whole credit transfer issue, and that I don't know if this should go in the document, it's not a resource, but in looking at the student survey results, one theme that came through loud and clear was their desire for more options, more choice in accelerated learning options in high school, and that may be contrary to effectively transferred, and I just college credit in high school. Not necessarily, right? Maybe we come up with a system where there are lots and lots of choices and they're all effectively transferred. But my guess is there's some tension between those two values of student choice on the one hand versus sort of optimal transferability on the other. And I hope that this, when we talk about policies, when this group works on policies, we'll sort of take that into account and sort of deal with that issue. I don't know how. I'm not coming up with a solution here, but it is, I think, it's part of the challenge.
I also wonder, I haven't asked students this, that, do you remember the ugly duckling story? And I think it was ugly duckling story. Here I go with a children's story again, Lindsay's cringing. But the notion was that the first thing the baby duckling saw, they sort of bonded with. Maybe it's the wrong story, but you know where I'm going. High school kids, I think, are very impressionable, and so when they are offered an option, that's kind of like, that must be the right one. And so then, you know, then they compare, and we start to see all of these different options, and I don't think we've yet even teased out, when do you want what? And I think some of the students talked about that this morning, that, you know, they're taking things, and I don't think they even know if they made the right choice for the right reasons. So that may be something that we have to think about. Group 3, speaking of students, and that was the focus of both our November meeting and this meeting, was to really hear from students and to begin to get a better sense of what some of the needs are. So we have results from now 2 student surveys totaling over 600 students. And we also shared with this group the findings from Senate Bill 418. That was an investment made by legislature to support students in many different areas. And then I did add in another resource that we probably need to map out where we have groups functioning, like Aspire and Avid and College Dreams and Trio, because I think the important thing is, where are those things not in place and what happens? And maybe, Rob, that's the next step to getting that integrated into services no matter what, so we don't have to have an extra support system offered there. But I'd like to open it up to this group. What are your thoughts there about what should be added or additional resources that we need to consider?
So to break the silence, maybe digging in further to
One element in the programming from Senate Bill 418 was the Career and College Readiness Alliance Academy, or and I think that could be expanded. It was put in motion, but those online, for the most part, professional development trainings could be expanded, and the next step, if that's supported in the future, is to do the higher education module for higher ed advisors, and I'd like to see that happen since we put a lot of work into the other modules.
And we actually found college folks, advisors taking those courses.
Yes.
As well as high school.
Yes, and
counselors.
you could also see vice versa.
Yeah,
So
vice versa.
the cross-training aspect of that college and career readiness curriculum, I think, could have a lot of momentum.
Hilda, this is Mark, and just listening to this, and I don't know if, I hope it doesn't deviate off of where you were kind of going, but I'm hearing over and over about the emphasis of high school counselors and, you know, and connecting with kids and sharing and cross-training, blah, blah, blah. Right now, our ratios for counselors to students, there's just no way we're going to take a step forward with that unless we invest in like a success coach model. And we have, again, Islands of Excellence around there doing that. But I think this group, if we were to really look at what we're doing to strengthen our programs consistently to get more adults with more kids and mentoring and advocating. Sometimes it's as simple as an adult there to assist with the high school schedule. And I really think that a lot of our efforts, you know, can dance around the fringe. To me, if we're going to move the dial, and this is also a high school grad rate initiative as well, we have got to have more adults with more kids. And it would be nice to have this group work on, you know, even like a job description and a training effort so that communities can reach out and we can, and people can get creative finding adults who can do that.
Excellent, and I think you must have read some notes that I had, because I've said repeatedly that we have over 2,000 that we know about, volunteers who are in some capacity, and they all work in different organizations, but we need something that collectively gives them the most accurate information and a sense of you're part of a team. So thank you so much for that. Other comments on this?
Excellent. I would also add that, kind of echoes a little bit, so a little further away from the mic. I would also add if there's an opportunity to look at where districts are expanding accelerated learning opportunities in their Mission 98 plan. One of the foundational eligibility requirements is closing the opportunity gap and helping remove barriers real or perceived when it comes to accessing accelerated learning opportunities. So that's something we're going to be looking for in this next round of plans, and there'll be plans for the next 3 years. And I think that that might help give us a nice temperature check of where some districts are at and where more student supports may be needed.
And maybe even some creative solutions of how they're doing that.
Absolutely.
Hilda, this is Sandra Fowler-Hill, and I don't want us to lose sight that there's a national organization that sets national standards for dual credit and accelerated learning, and if we're going to create models, then that we, at minimum, meet those national standards with all of our programs.
Great, I have it down under instructor qualifications, but I think it belongs in other places as well, Sandra.
Right, so NACEP standards. Thanks.
Anything else on student supports? And I realize these things are not isolated. Ben?
Yeah, just in terms of resources, we administer the Aspire program that came up a number of times today, have increasingly good data about the program and its impacts and outcomes. It is a volunteer, volunteer mentors, many of those 2,000, some additional, who are coordinated through our efforts and who are given training and modules in this area that our staff has developed. So be happy to make those kinds of resources available to the group as it considers how to improve student support services.
Excellent. So how widespread is Aspire? What's the reach of it?
Hundreds of schools, a majority, I think, of high schools in the state have an Aspire agreement, some middle schools now as well, and it's thousands of volunteers, and at each school, a coordinator usually is a part of a person, a school employee's time is dedicated to helping coordinate. And then our staff operates on a sort of regional basis, providing state support, which a lot of it, which involves training for the volunteer support to the school-based.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the students mentioned, not waiting till they're seniors to really get them to think about college, and I think that's really important. So the more we can get it in 7th and 8th grade, just to get them started, to get experience with that, I think would be really good.
And another student support would be looking at some of the regional promise programs, which have created these explorations and student success courses in the middle schools and in freshman year. So having students actually take those college success and career explorations early on, and the students talked about having some of those supports as well. So we can look at some of those examples.
Mark and Dan, we're just happy that you mentioned it, and they didn't have to mention it because they started that.
All right. I was just going to add along that same line, because that goes along very well with the guided pathways work. And not only are we looking at a guided curriculum, academic curriculum, we're looking at the guided co-curricular activities that the students should be involved in along the way that'll help them persist.
And I will close this section with simply doing my iteration again of, don't we have a mandate for a student plan while in high school? Make me notice that. I forgot where that is. Group 4, instructor qualifications. So this is the last of the 4 areas, and we think it's important in terms of looking at what are the best mechanisms and the resources that we have to bring our folks together. We now have it probably 3 bienniums of research or practice implementation under our belts, with some research that's coming out relative to how different groups did that under some innovation funding, as well as the traditional ways that we know are in place around NACEP standards and accreditation standards. So I put down under resources that we have been keeping up with state policies around instructor qualifications, how other states are handling this. We do have data on high school instructors and post-secondary faculty who've been part of PLCs in Regional Promise. We know what it costs to do that and what the mechanisms look like for that. And then we do have our existing standards. We do know that there's some options that we could look at to create some online access to graduate coursework in content areas that are available to people who are needing those traditional dual credit instructor qualifications. And we could do something like we did before, where we put out an incentive funding for universities to develop these graduate courses online, so people don't have to drive somewhere, and hopefully during the summer, and do a planned sequence of these over the next few years, so that you pick the highest need areas and develop those, and then they're up and running and people can count on them. That's one idea that's come forward. So really at this point, I think we won't put you on the spot, but we expect you to, if anybody has a pad of paper, look, she's Kathy. She's like on number 4. All right. I was not going to ask you to volunteer up front, but do I see some hands, Rob?
No, I was going to ask a question on number 4. You should ask for input on.
Yes.
I support Rob being on that.
No. Done. You had asked for input on some of the things that were included in these.
Yes.
So I would love to, I don't know if it exists, I would love to see the best research that's available on instructor qualifications impact on student learning. So we talk about this a lot, but I would love to know if there's data out there that says if the instructor has this qualification, students learn more.
Get any money for that study?
No. I would also be really curious about what degrees do instructors actually hold? Those who are actually in front of students delivering the instruction in all institutions. I'd love to know what degree they hold, especially in the courses that we're talking about. Typically writing 121, 122, math 111, 112.
And I also just had a couple of comments on number 4. And, you know, I know at different junctures and different groups, we've talked about just a master's in a particular content area. And I'm not seeing that here, and probably for some other discussions that I missed or was not part of. But when I look at the 3 bullets under resources, analysis of state policies on instructor qualifications, the third one, current standards for instructor qualifications from Northwest and NACEP, it feels like, don't know that it's true, but it feels like it's an interest in putting barriers to growing our base of instructors.
Well, it actually has all of those things in there.
Okay.
In the document.
Okay, then that's where I'm missing. So, again, I want to know, do we want to make it more complex, or do we want to make it simpler to access to people who actually understand the content to teach that? So, and to the above, and maybe the document already references this, when it says mechanisms and resources needed for increasing the supply of qualified teachers. Is there in the back of material by some percentage, you know, that we're going to increase these qualified by some percent by X number of years, sort of a measurable? Mm-hmm. And likewise, where we talked earlier about getting more underrepresented populations in, will we also be increasing it by the teaching population that might more mirror the student population we hope to gain? So I think those are a couple of comments.
Excellent addition. Thank you so much, both of you. So I'm sorry I rushed that one, didn't mean to, but I want to turn this back over to Lindsay. We have one person already volunteer for a group. If anybody else is feeling the move, you could either pass me a slip of paper, or, you know, I'm going to hound you until, or I'm just going to flake you. And what we'll do is start scheduling these webinars and phone meetings. So you could just tear off a piece of the paper and hand me something and say, these are my top 2 choices. That would be terrific. Lindsay, I'm going to hand it over to you. Sure. And thank you. Look, the paper is much fuller now. So could we volunteer somebody else for my not in this room.
I just love the bet.
I didn't know if you had an intent to keep the group small or not, but I probably have somebody that's far more qualified than I would be to be on one of these. And is that okay? Sure. I don't want to. Yeah. In the area. Thank you.
We didn't get a couple of other folks that are serving assigned anywhere yet, right? So we should chime in on those.
Yeah. Yeah, we are trying to hold back in assigning names right now because we thought it'd be nicer for people to volunteer.
Well, we didn't get to all the agenda items. We want to honor your time as well. There was going to be a highlights discussion that Janelle and Hilda were going to provide around regional promise. So you have those materials. We do want to just, with the time we have with Dean Camphouse, get an update on the Research Schools Network. Before we do that, we do want to give the work group just an update on legislation. The Representative Reardon and Solman have interviews that directly relate to the work of this work group. So I thought might maybe have Teresa just give us a rundown on that policy and any kind of update.
Absolutely. Thank you again for the opportunity to go over House Bill 4053. So this concept was developed based on feedback we've been hearing from district partners
with all of the investments from Measure 98 and the Regional Promise Grants going to expand accelerated learning opportunities, which is a great thing. We want students to be able to access this more, especially students from underserved and underrepresented communities. However, what we were finding to be a constant challenge was after students graduate high school and attempt to transfer the credits to a public college or university, we had anecdotal information about folks getting partial transfers or some not transferring at all. And so what we decided to do is take a step back and look at a sample of students from each public college and university, which credits are transferring as part of your general ed foundational curriculum, which ones are not transferring. And this would be in partnership with the HEC and the Chief Education Office. I also want to appreciate some of the folks in the room who came out and testified in support of the bill. I know there's a lot of logistics that we still need to work out, but I know that we have existing work groups like this one, and we want clear timelines in place because our intention is to use this study bill as a springboard for a concept in 2019. So hoping to leverage the framework of this work group in particular, as well as the findings from this study bill for future work. So it doesn't end there. We want to continue to keep the momentum moving forward so that students can continue to benefit from that seamless transition from high school to post-secondary.
And looking at you and realizing you're framed by two students.
Oh,
It's so cool.
Wonderful.
Any questions for Carissa? Yeah.
Should I just say, talk loudly?
No, we can.
Well, I assume that's for people on the phone, right, that we're doing the
Dana,
mic?
you want to, we did do introductions if you want to.
Well, hi, I'm Dana. I work with the public universities, and we've been working with the sponsors since Dan. So I'm interested in the thoughts around legislation for the next session, given that the bill won't really have very much data until I think the first hopeful deadline is December 2018. So I'm wondering the sequence of that work informing a legislative proposal given the timing of that.
Absolutely, that's a great question. And what I wanted to say is that we hope to leverage the work.
Thank you for the question. What we hope to do is also leverage the work from this work group. I know there's a lot of work being done through Measure 98. We'll be getting a lot of baseline information there from district plans. That'll be collected on March 31st. So if you haven't submitted your plan, please make sure you do so. Make sure I put that plug there. So we're hoping to leverage all of those pieces in addition to the study to inform the concept. I think that with the subgroup 2 here that works on the transferability of credit, there's a lot that we can pull from there as well.
Can I make a comment?
Thank you. So I think the universities have identified one of the real challenges, and it's one of the reasons probably for the introduction of the bill, is that in many ways accelerated credits aren't identified on transcripts. Some that are earned in high school are, but oftentimes when they are in partnership with a college or university, they just appear as transfer credit, and it's not clear what type of credit it may be. So I think we want to work closely with the commission, and I think you really need enrollment managers and IR people and registrars to really understand some of the intricacies in kind of defining the sorts of courses that you're talking about. And we're all really great, smart people, but I, for one, know I can't do that. So I do think it's really important to get kind of the right folks in the room to be working with the chief ed office and have to make sure that when you get the information, it's good information.
I would just add that I think to the question you raised, Dana, in terms of sequencing of the work group to the data, I think we have clearly identified through conversations prior to today, as has been outlined in this framework, that there's enough work for us to do. I think the additive value of having the data certainly helps us
those could be concurrent processes in my mind.
So, will you take us home?
Try to get you across the finish line. Should I be using one of those?
Yeah, I think, let's hand that one.
It's on, but not working.
There should be a little green light on it, it's on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for letting me join you today. One of the reasons you haven't heard much about the ORSN, the Oregon Research Schools Network, is that we're still in sort of a quiet phase at this point. There really will not be significant announcements from the university probably for the next 2 months or so. But it's been a very busy, quiet phase. One of the things I've been doing is directly related to your work, and that has been stressing about these 4 issues here and their relationship to school partnerships for at least a decade. And because of my experience as an academic dean, I've been in this continuous cycle of opening and closing programs, partnerships, and projects for the entirety. And it's been quite frustrating to see great ideas get launched with some seed funding, some short-term funding, some foundation funding, et cetera, and then have to sunset them at some later point in time. So the overarching goal of the Oregon Research School Network is born out of that frustration. And that is to try to create a framework for our university for in perpetuity deep partnerships with high schools, where our overarching goal is to improve the capacity of those high schools to serve students. So it's much more than dual credit, although that's one of the 3 major components. So in thinking about the various projects and their relatively short-lived nature, I was struck by the longevity of Ag Extension as an outreach program. And being part of the land grant, sea grant, space grant university for about 20 years of my career, and growing up in a rural area myself, I'm very aware of the longevity of that work and the value of those institutions and by their local communities. So that is the template for the Oregon Research Schools Network, essentially, is Ag Extension. And some of the assumptions under Ag Extension are, present in the community. So we reached out to Mark on the phone and others to find partners and schools with significant challenges, or the preferred schools, as we begin this project, where we think we can add some value in terms of improving the capacity of the high school by essentially having a joint faculty member, a joint faculty appointment, because that's harder to remove. And so whether it's someone we would hire jointly, there's some great research by the National Science Foundation to show that PhDs in mathematics and biology are routinely not hired by high schools. But perhaps if they were jointly hired by a university and a high school, that might be a more attractive arrangement. So that was the original goal, was to try to have joint new hires at high schools. We probably will not be able to achieve that goal. We will use existing faculty who meet our credentials for courtesy appointments or appointments as clinical faculty at the University of Oregon. And this solves a number of problems because we have buy-in, the school district has buy-in, because we're both committed to having a faculty member liaise between the 2 institutions and serve both institutions. So you'll be learning more about these clinical faculty in this particular arrangement, but they will serve as the drivers of our 3 interventions, if you will. So the first intervention will be long-term professional development for the education cadre there at the local school. There's finally good research out on teacher professional development, and you have to stay on plan, you have to stay on topic for at least 3 years in order to get change in teaching practices. And so So we want to obey that research, and so this is a 5-year pilot project funded with some seed money from Mike Schill, the president of the U of O. So we wanted to add a couple years on to give us a chance to show proof of concept that if we stuck with it long enough, we could actually change teaching capacity in significant ways. The nature of that professional development will be negotiated between the local school and ourselves based upon the local needs and the capacity we have to deliver on those. Just as an aside, it will depend heavily on digital delivery. And so we're going to create a just-in-time delivery model so that teachers don't have to sit in workshops for long periods of time, but can address immediate needs of practice. Just as we all do in our personal lives, we go to YouTube if we want to learn how to tie a bow tie, which I struggle with, or things of that nature. So we want to use that modern model for supporting teachers and educational leaders in schools. The second component comes directly from Ag Extension, and that is what we're calling field-initiated research. And that's where we will bring the research capacity at the University of Oregon, particularly in the College of Education, and the doctoral students who are working on various research projects into the field to solve local problems. And these problems differ. We heard different challenges from Mark over in that part of the state. We've heard different challenges from the coast. And so it really is just like Ag Extension research, where you have different crop difficulties in different climates, et cetera. So that's the research component. And it's one of the strengths we should have as a research university, so we want to bring that to improving practice as well. And then the third one is dual credit, because as Aaron and all of you know, the data are now in, that is a strong driver of improved graduation rates and improved persistence into post-secondary education. And it works across all socioeconomic lines, all racial, ethnic lines, et cetera. So we want to capitalize on that body of research at this point in time. So there are three ways we'll try to serve these schools. It will start in the fall in earnest, although we've taken some initial steps, first with North Eugene High School. And that's been an interesting partnership with them. Because we've, even before the concept was supported by the president, Gus Balderas was willing, to join in this effort, put in some of his own money before we had money. And so what we're finding is it's very attractive to local districts and high schools within those districts, which gives me hope for shared funding in the long term. From not just one or two sources, but hopefully 3 or 4 sources. Ag Extension is supported typically by 4 sources: local municipality dollars, county dollars, state dollars, and federal dollars. And that's probably one of the reasons for its longevity. We're trying to serve the state at 10 sites initially. We only have startup funds for 4, but we do have a signed MOU with Coquille to get near the coast, and with Pendleton to get to the eastern part of the state. We have conversations with Portland Public Schools next week about a specific high school we're looking at there that has some challenges we can be of help with. The last thing I'll mention is that this is not just a project of the College of Education. We're planning on leveraging all the intellectual resources of the university. We have the Native Language Institute that's interested in partnering with us. We have biology faculty, chemistry faculty that are interested, and we simply have to find a structure internally to make sure that we're all doing collaborative work in serving these high schools. That's been one of the joys of this announcement, is faculty coming from all over campus saying, I'm serving schools now, I think it could do better, if we joined efforts. So that's my executive summary.
Okay. We're little bit past 2 o'clock. Unless there are any final thoughts, our next steps will be to communicate out with you all about the work groups. Your input today, or directly to Hilda, hopefully fairly soon. Again, thanks to all of you for your participation and leadership in this work. We look forward to getting down to business and getting some work done between now and our next meeting. So,
Those of you on the phone, just send me an email. Tentatively, we've reserved April 11th for our next face-to-face meeting, or, you know, this kind of a approach, and we'd like to convene those groups before that meeting and get started on this. Thank you all very, very much, and have a wonderful Valentine's Day. Happy birthday, Laura.